I am making a video over chapter 2, lesson preparation and SIOP. I had an older one, but it's kind of garbled, so I'm making a new one. It'll be a short one. I want you to watch the video on the SIOP tape, which I have here in this assignment. You can click on it and watch that section of it. Of course, anytime you want, you can watch a whole video over and over. It has all the different stages. What I want to highlight here on lesson preparation is, and what I like most about it, is that it emphasizes having all your material, giving yourself time to think about what you're going to be teaching. And of course, I don't believe in just doing a lesson day by day, but have a vision for the whole part so that when you are doing the lessons for a particular day, you feel there's a completeness and you're just taking one step in it. So that's a big deal. So what is emphasized in this chapter and in her presentation? Well, first of all, writing content and language objectives. And this is really a major, major part of the whole SIOP approach. This essentially is showing your lesson plan, your aims to your students. And so actually having them repeat them back to you, or at least orally respond so that they know this is what we're going to be doing today. And notice there are language objectives and content objectives, because it's a sheltered workshop, which means that you're teaching content about whatever it is: math, history, chemistry, spelling, and you're teaching language objectives, which means you want to try to have a combination of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now, those may be emphasized more of writing one day versus speaking the another day, but the idea is that you want to make sure that your students are actually participating. So you prompt them a little bit and they respond. Some people just have them say, this is what we're going to be doing today. And they emphasize having the kids talk about the content objectives. But the idea is that the students are clearly aware of what you're doing. You're not trying to be mysterious about it. That's a big part of what I think lesson preparation. In the video, she shows that they have their curriculum guides from the district, from the state, or from the government, hopefully not the government too much. But you want to look at what the curriculum is, the expectation is in the curriculum, and then think about, first of all, think in terms of the intellectual aspect. What is it you're going to be doing, and how are you going to get the kids excited and passionate and engaged in this lesson? I don't care if it's planting lettuce seeds in a petri dish and doing charts and, get them all excited about their biology study in 4th grade, or if you're teaching history, you want to give them some kind of I always like little video things from movies showing the excitement. This is the real Civil War. Now, it doesn't work for banking collapses because there's not a lot of action. People just walk in and say, the bank's closed, you lost all your money. Then you may have some action. You want to look at, in terms of language, you want to look at the vocabulary you're going to be teaching. You want to do a language preparation, a word wall, something to give them a word bank so they know what's going to be done, and to get them somewhat acquainted. Now, I want to mention that when you teach vocabulary, you want to teach it in context. When I think of my language classes and we would go and memorize 20 words, if we didn't use those words in Spanish or whatever language it was, English, if we didn't use those words during the period, then it was really kind of pointless. So there has to be a context for vocabulary. Language function, this is on page 29 of the SIOP book, when it talks about categories and examples for developing language objectives. Look at underlying verb tenses. If they're going to be using something like the future tense, and your students really aren't very good with that. You want to have some basic understanding of what that is, a little drill, a little practice, and word in the structure of a sentence. If they're going to say that after the war, President Lincoln planned to, if that were the structure, or it could be after his troops attacked, Robert E. Lee planned to send his troop. You always have to think about, you can't use the word divert or confuse or something like that unless your students know it. Otherwise, you have to kind of go with a little simpler. So you actually handicap a little bit. Think about what backup options you have for words that may be a little difficult and what has to be explained. So, and then the lesson tasks themselves, that's the objectives. What is it the students are going to be? Do you have students that need help with other students, helping them in order to write like a small paragraph about whatever happened? It may be a science experiment. 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what we did. This is what happened next. This is what we observed. So give people models, a little paragraph, basic structure. You want to reinforce it verbally, and then have them, know the vocabulary. Remember what we're doing in Sheltered Workshop. We're trying to give them as much content and comprehensible input as we can without diminishing the quality of the content in terms of the material they need to know to fulfill the school curriculum design. What is it you need to know in 4th grade or 8th grade or whatever? So those are things to think about. That's considered in here. It's very important that it's not difficult, but some people have to be careful to distinguish between language objectives and content objectives. Page 31, they talk about this. Verbs that talk about doing something, a verb, speaking, summarizing, rehearsing, writing, retelling, stating, defining. Those are language objectives. Now, content objectives may say something less, it's not clear how you would do it, but it talks about make a hypothesis about what's going to happen in this experiment, okay? Hypothesis is not a language statement per se, because it could be reading, writing, speaking, listening, something could be involved with that. But you want to have, and you can see on that figure 2.3, it talks about that. This I can't emphasize enough. The language and the content objectives are huge. You have to have those. They're not an optional thing. You can't skip one or skip the other. Other things about lesson preparation, and most of you as teachers would know this. People trying to stop me again from talking. They're out to kill me. Never fails when I get ready to start. I put a sign up and people don't read it. Okay, hands-on manipulatives. Depending on what you're doing, if you're explaining atoms or the movement of the planets, you're going to have some kind of visuals. You're going to have things kids can handle. You may have actual photographs. You may have videos. You're going to show them computer programs, etc. These are things you got to have ahead of time. And so I just emphasize that you have that material and you have it while you're preparing the lesson. And so it's like putting together a puzzle. Your game plan, like Belichick did for the Super Bowl, which obviously New England played defense way out of their mind. I know you don't want to hear this, and they totally stymied the Los Angeles Rams. Well, it's called preparation. It doesn't happen. You don't ad-lib your defense. You don't ad-lib your lesson. You give yourself some stuff to fall back on. So it mentions in here about getting adapted text if you have something that's too difficult for the kids. I recommend something called high interest, low reading level for kids, over a topic they might be interested in. I'll show you more of that when we get into more, when I show you choosing books for your students, not only multicultural books, but books that have different levels of reading. You can tell the story of the Civil War in a fourth grade vocabulary or in a, college level material. They actually go through and give you teaching scenarios, both on the tape and in the textbook. Read through those. What you want to read out of this is up to you, how much you want to get out of the class. But I like the SIOP because the lesson preparation is huge. It's valuable because it helps you set yourself up to be successful. It makes it so much easier. Now, here's the deal with the lesson. You can see on page 47, the SIOP has its own little lesson plan, which I happen to like, but you can modify it in any way you want. My thoughts on it are this, that you want to create a lesson plan that is comfortable for you. So you can adjust this in any number of ways. But the major part is put your lesson together in such a way that you can pull it out and use it next year without having to do the work over again. Beg, borrow, steal, borrow other people's ideas, whatever. There's a site on the internet where you can actually buy lesson plans. I've been thinking, wouldn't it be great if you made lesson plans for ESL students and then put them on there and you could sell them? I've heard that there's a lady that made $1 million selling her lesson plans and her preparation. Think about that. So look at the video. I like the idea of bouncing ideas off other people. Hopefully we can get something going here with a little network. You could actually email ideas to other people or your lesson plans. Maybe somebody in another school could help you. I think that's about all I'm going to do for right now. I don't want to chat too much because you already got enough videos to watch. Now, I did the one on the programs, types of programs. I just did the first 3. And that actually is an older video. So I look slightly different, and I probably look more handsome and wiser than I was in that 10 months ago. And I'm wearing my Yankee jacket too, which I know you love the Yankees. So got all the Yankee championships on the back. Quite a wardrobe for such a simple person. All right, well, thank you, and I hope this is helpful.